It was a weird one, really, because I didn't set out to do it. I think they have the confidence that I kind of understand it, I get it. So it is all about contacts.
Well, hello there and welcome to the latest episode of the About Small Business podcast. In this episode, I'm really excited to be chatting to Neil Jackson of Media Arts, based in the Northeast, in Concert, near where we're actually recording this at the moment. Neil, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast.
No problem.
Now, when we were first introduced, essentially, you were talking to me that, first and foremost, you're a storyteller. Obviously, you produce videos, you've got quite an incredible CV. Looking at your LinkedIn profile, I know some of the stuff that you've done, and we'll go into kind of where your work actually does feature so people can check that out. But storyteller, and what I'm interested today is basically your story. So in terms of your storytelling, has that always been about the video side of things? Because that is essentially the main service that you appear to be offering at the moment. Is that fair?
Yeah, video and to an extent audio. I do web design as well, but I mean it's mainly video that we do. Yeah.
So full service media company.
Yeah.
But with a specialism in media.
Yeah, so kind of like almost a one-man agency almost.
That sounds great. Now, I mean, in terms of the storytelling, did that manifest itself at quite an early age? Have you always been like one for like sort of listening to stories? Were you a writer as that came into it?
I loved reading as a kid, as a very young kid. I loved being read to. I've enjoyed reading to my kids in turn, and kind of passing that on to them. They both love books and love reading. I enjoyed writing. I enjoyed creative writing.
Yeah.
The interest in telling stories and reading stories has come, like you say, from quite a young age, really.
Yeah. So, I mean, from writing stories, presumably at school, were you someone that enjoyed school? Were you quite academic?
No, I really enjoyed primary school. And I was one of those that when I got to big school, it was just too big. And suddenly it wasn't safe and friendly, and you weren't with all your mates, and it kind of threw me, really. And the school I went to was not going through a brilliant time in its history, I think, at that point.
Yeah.
And so no, I wasn't very academic in secondary school.
It's interesting the number of people that I'm speaking to now that are reporting back with that, because certainly, as we're seeing with a lot of younger people at the moment, we're getting a lot of, homeschooling's, going through the roof. That's absolutely crazy at the minute. Mental health epidemics, it's something that people are talking about a lot. But then when we actually start chatting to other adults, certainly for myself, I'm speaking to so many. I mean, I was lucky I enjoyed school, I did. But I'm speaking to so many people saying, no, I actually really didn't get on with it. And people like yourself who enjoyed the primary aspect, but then come secondary, as a country, we've not done something right. We've not looked after people like yourself.
I would agree with that. I mean, part of that, I think, is I was probably undiagnosed autistic, probably. And that hasn't really come to the fore until kind of later life. And in those days, learning was sort of tailored towards that kind of one size fits all. It still is to some extent, but
I think there's possibly more awareness now. But I would agree with you. I think it's a money thing, isn't it?
Of course it is. Yeah.
We've got the big schools, and it's down to budgets. We're thinking economies of scale, and sadly, we're treating kids like spreadsheets.
Yeah, and it's gone full circle for me now, because my this isn't probably what you want to talk about. My youngest child is ADHD, and I've just moved her out of her state school into an independent special school for exactly that same reason, that the one size fits all was losing her, and she's thriving now where she is, but she would have been lost where she was.
Yeah, it is a bit of a nightmare, really. But hopefully, that we're aware of the problem. Hopefully, something can be done.
Yeah.
So you weren't enjoying the secondary school. Sort of come 16, when you were, I suppose, made your escape, for want of a better expression. What then?
So I was going to say respectfully, but it wasn't very respectfully. I was told that I wasn't allowed to go back for sixth form,
Really?
Yeah. And my my head of year, you know, you used to have the leavers assemblies when you
Yeah.
left school. My head of year turned to me as we were all filing out and shaking hands with all the teachers, and she was saying nice things to everybody in front of me. And she got to me and she went, "You'll never amount to anything, Jackson." I thought, that's
Really?
yeah, yeah, true story, yeah. And that was the last words.
You see,
that I
I've
had from
heard
my
that.
school.
I've heard that from, obviously, I've read it in papers of, like, you know, sort of rock stars, and I've always felt, because obviously I'm a former teacher myself,
Yeah.
and I know a lot of teachers, and I don't know anyone from my colleagues that would have actually said that to a child, because I mean, my anecdotal experience is that people, even people that I speak to now, who felt they were a nightmare in my class, they were never anywhere near as bad as what they seem to think they were. I mean, there are one or two people I can think back and say, yeah, actually, you were a nightmare. But most aren't. Most are generally, they're all right. They've got a bit of character, really. And I think it's a shame to like sort of to bash that out of them. But
I think I was just lost, really. I was disruptive at times, but I was
Yeah.
lost, really. But
would you describe you? Because I mean, you don't come across as someone that would have been that bad.
I probably had my moments.
Yeah.
But I did rebel a little bit.
Certainly not someone that deserved.
But
that.
no, I don't think anybody deserves that.
No.
I think that for the last word from your education to be that, I think
And it's a bit shameful.
I think that's disgraceful,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more.
So I wasn't allowed to go back for sixth form.
Looking back on that, as you're telling me now, I mean, did that affect your confidence, or were you past caring?
I think at that point I was probably past caring.
Yeah.
I think I probably only realised quite how shocking that statement was when I got a little bit older and a bit more mature, really. But
Yeah.
so I'd already been doing kind of odd shifts on the local market. So
Yeah.
I was setting up and packing away for a lady called Vera who used to run a vacuum cleaner stall at Chelmsford Market. So I kind of just did more hours and went
Yeah.
straight from school to doing that. Then I went from the vacuum stall to the book stall, and then we were going across from sort of Chelmsford, Southend,
Yeah.
Basildon, Pitsea, and that was kind of a full-time job really for a
So
couple of years.
yeah, is that essentially where your work ethics come from?
Yeah, I think
So you actually the hands-on,
Yeah.
just leaving school, getting out,
Yeah.
doing something totally different.
I've always been busy. I'm not somebody
Yeah.
who can sit about really, but the necessity to work was there because I needed the money, you know, obviously at that
Yeah.
age. But yeah, I was always quite a hard worker. You know, from paper rounds to setting up, you know, at the age of 13, 14, setting up somebody's market stall, you
Yeah.
know, at 5 a.m. before I went to school, you know.
Yeah, I mean that's not easy, is it?
No.
Particularly at that age.
No.
But no, they're quite amazing, really. So I mean, how did your career go? Because I mean, certainly the media itself. I think the narrative generally, sort of from down south, is that you really need a bit of a leg up, at least in some kind of internship, or as I was told, because I did film and television studies at university.
Where did you
And
go?
I went to St John's
Right.
in York, and I remember quite naively asking my tutor, who had worked in TV, you know, how do you actually get into this then? And he told me, you need some unpaid work experience. You need to spend some time getting in somewhere and working for free. Now, as someone, I mean, whilst I enjoyed school, I was like yourself, I had part-time jobs, and the thought of that, you could argue short-sightedness, but I didn't come from a wealthy family or anything like that, and I was used to earning my money. I've always had jobs, you know, sort of more than one job right the way through university, made it out without any kind of overdraft.
Did you?
Yeah, I was debt-free because I'd worked and had just continued to work, maybe 2 or 3 jobs. And for someone to turn around and say, you know, you need some unpaid work experience, I didn't have that mentality to be able to see the benefit in that. And I think that's quite interesting from what you're telling me. You've gone straight onto the markets, and I'm fascinated to know how you kind of successfully made that leap into what you ended up doing.
It was a weird one, really, because I didn't set out to do it.
Right.
I kind of I realised quite quickly that getting up at 4 o'clock every morning and, you know, in the winter was not was not great.
Yeah.
And so I moved into a friend of mine had got he was working for Vision Express, the opticians,
Right.
and they were going to open a store in Chelmsford, and they were taking people on, and so I got a job in the lab there making glasses, and so I was with Vision Express for probably about 7 or 8 years, but I moved up the ranks quite quickly.
Yeah.
Until I was in charge of opening their new stores across the country. And what that meant was that I was then kind of technically, I guess, in a training role.
Right.
And when they stopped opening new stores quite as quickly, I moved across to a company called Game Station, who used to be video games.
Yeah.
I mean, they were huge at the time, but they were just expanding. They only got about 5 stores when I joined them as their training manager.
Yeah.
And
So would you say you were doing more training rather than retail then?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
And they had this grand plan that they wanted to open 2 stores every week, Game Station, which even today would be staggering to try and do. But because they were literally 2 university students who'd written their business plan on the back of a fag packet, you know, it was they were just becoming like a proper company.
Yeah.
None of the infrastructure was in place for this, so I kind of said, look, you know, there's no way I'm going to be able to train every single person for every single store, for 2 stores to open every single week, you know, every year. And the aim was for, like, I think they wanted 300 stores, you know, which is a huge number.
That is fast, isn't it?
It is fast, and it worked. It did work in the end, and they sold to Blockbuster, if you remember them.
Funnily enough, I used to work for Blockbuster.
Did you?
Yeah. Well, Ritz Video, as they started off, and then it became Blockbuster.
So it did work, but in order for me to train these people, the only way I could see it working would be to produce some kind of training video. And that's where the media thing started.
That's fascinating in a way, because a training video back then, that would have been quite a costly exercise, wouldn't it?
You would think so.
Okay.
Remember I said these were, they were lovely guys, the guys who ran it, but they weren't seasoned businessmen, should we say.
Yeah.
And I went into the MD's office and I said, look, this is the only way I can see that we're going to do it. And he said, no, I can see that. That's a good idea. He said, let's do a video. And I was expecting him to say, go and find a company who'll produce it and work with them to do it. And instead he opened his filing cabinet, pulled out an envelope and counted out, you know, several thousand quid in £20 notes and said, go and get what you need and get yourself trained. I want you to do it.
Really?
So that was how it started. So I went and
had you any inkling that could have been the response?
No, none whatsoever. No, I just thought he would. I thought we'd have a bit of a back and forth about how much it might cost, and then he would agree to it because there was no other way.
Yeah. Really.
No, I didn't think he'd just say go off and do it.
Is it something that you'd even thought about? I mean, had you any experience prior to that?
I'd had little home video cameras, you know, when the kids were growing up and things like that. I'd done a little bit of playing around with the footage, but nothing professional at all. So I took the money, I did some research, I got a camera, I got a tripod, I had to argue about it, but I got them to get me an Apple Max desktop and some training from Apple and to edit.
So you did the actual training with Apple?
Yeah.
Wow.
And
what camera was it that you got? What type of camera?
Yeah, it was one of those little camcorder kind of little silver things that, you know, I can't remember what it was now. It was a Canon, I think. You know, and it was something stupid like 12 megapixels or something ridiculous. Wow. You know, it was.
It's what format were you on? Because I remember
cassettes. It was mini DV tapes.
Mini DV tapes.
Yeah.
Right.
So when you're editing it, you had to in real time capture all the tape back. Wow. Whereas now you just put the card in and it's all there.
That's it. It's all done.
But,
I remember because I did obviously some editing training at college, university. We started using U-matic tapes,
right,
and then went on to VHS, to do the editing and things, and had to like transfer everything onto the VHS, as you say. And I do remember watching from there until we, you know, it was like zip drives and jazz drives, which were much better, but no one really sort of had it. I think they were a lot more expensive actually. But right, and so you had your own camcorder.
Yeah.
So that learning process then, because that is it's kind of, even though you had some training, it's kind of been thrown in the deep end with a degree of pressure, I would imagine.
Yeah, because you know the project of opening these stores wasn't going to wait for me to get the hang of Final Cut.
And I mean the amount that you're talking. I mean roughly when time. I mean, are we talking 1990s?
2000 and would have been 2001 probably, something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
So a couple of thousand then was worth a lot more than than it is now.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I can remember the Mac system that I got was, I think it was about $6,000, I think, at the time.
Wow.
Because I spec'd it out to be the best.
Yeah. I'm just trying to remember sort of what would iMacs and things. They were
iMac hadn't come along by then, so it was the big what was it? They called it Mac Studio eventually, but it was like the big box, silver box that.
Was that the Cube?
No.
No. The G5.
Yeah, that's what it was.
G5,
yeah, it was G5, yeah.
I had one of those for my music studio.
I thought it looked great. It did everything. You could add stuff to it. You know, you could add them up the memory really easily and all of that. Yeah.
No, they were great. Those machines. I remember getting one of those for my recording studio at the time, running Logic. So I suppose by that time, in fairness, the software was kind of in place and it was usable.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
So and we've discussed sort of off camera. You were using Final Cut Pro.
Yeah, that's what I started with. Yeah. So it was, I don't know what it was. It was Final Cut Pro 4 or something, I think. Then.
Right. Okay. And that was at the time. That was pretty much considered an industry standard.
Yeah.
Sort of fairly early on.
Yeah.
And for the nerds watching, I suppose there was obviously when it changed to the what it is now, the Final Cut Pro X. Were you one of those people that got very cross about it?
No, I mean, I understood people who did, because, you know, I think a lot of people thought it dumbed it down a little bit. It was a bit like iMovie, really, but it could still do all the things I wanted it to do. And, you know, I mean, just this week I found, you know, I was doing some subtitling for somebody, and now, you know, within Final Cut, you can do it through some AI wizardry. It can subtitle it for you almost, you know? I mean, that's fairly recent.
Yes, latest update, I think, that one.
You know, which...
There's been a lot of complaints about that, from what I understand, that it's not quite where it needs to be compared to, like CapCut, but I mean, CapCut that's a subtitling machine, really, in many ways.
But, you know, it does all the things I want it to do, like we said off camera, you know, there's nothing that any other system can do that can't, so...
Yeah, that's true. So you're into Final Cut at quite an early stage, and then... I'm assuming, I'm hoping, for the sake of your career at the time, that the video was a success.
Video was a success. They loved it, and then they were asking me to do things for conferences and opening videos and intro videos for people coming out and doing, because Game Station conferences were just a big piss up, really, and a big kind of showcase for what the new games were going to be, and you know, it was all quite rock and roll, and so video worked really well.
It sounds like university students at the time, to be fair. It's like, whatever, let's just go for it. And
so I ended up kind of doing a lot of stuff for conferences and product launches and, you know, new store openings, and so the role kind of moved from being training with a bit of video thrown in to kind of mainly multimedia. Right.
Have you ever had any sort of like a formal training with regards to like the photography, the filming element of it? No. It's you just kind of
picked it up,
hands on, and run with it. Because obviously at the time we're talking, there's no YouTube or anything like that.
No. Well, not really.
I'm trying to remember when that actually came in, but like the early YouTube was very much just people doing stupid things, a bit like...
still is, really.
No, I mean that's true, but I mean, I think it is fair to say now you can teach yourself pretty much anything with the help of YouTube.
Yeah.
But you didn't have that.
No, I didn't have any kind of formal training. I kind of picked up as I went along, really, and watched what others were doing and how when I watched films, how things were kind of composed and what I liked and what I didn't like. And, I'm not sometimes, sometimes I'm not perfect still, but it's everything I've picked up and I keep learning, keep learning.
Yeah. I think, I mean, in fairness to what you've just said there, I think you have been quite modest given where some of your work has ended up. And I think it is only fair to say, you've got stuff on Netflix, haven't you?
Mm-hmm.
Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
Any more that?
Yeah, I've had stuff on Sky and some channels in the US and
Yeah. So I mean, I think credit where it's due, and you are perhaps being a little bit unduly modest there.
Thank you.
But so we've got a gap there from doing, albeit successful training videos to ending up with, I think a CV and showreel that most filmmakers will be quite proud of. Where did you go from Game Station?
Redundancy is where I went.
Really?
Yeah. So having had this meteoric rise where everybody wanted a bit of me, Blockbuster bought them and there were two of me. Somebody in Blockbuster doing what I was doing. They didn't need me, so I got made redundant. So that was after a meteoric rise, quite a meteoric drop, really, quite quickly.
And Blockbuster, so you'd come from Blockbuster?
Blockbuster. No, I came from Game Station. I was in Game Station. Blockbuster bought Game Station, and then, like I say, they already had somebody at Blockbuster who was doing what I did.
Right.
So they took precedent over me. So off I went. So I kind of had the decision to make. Then, do I go off and go and get a proper job, or do I go and do something that I've actually fallen into but I actually quite enjoy?
It's a labour of love that you've been doing with the film side of things. I would imagine that you're feeling at the time that's going to be quite hard to give up, rather than going and getting something that can be, I think for someone that's fundamentally creative, I wouldn't put down anyone's job, but I think people are suited to some jobs more than others. And as a creative person, I think it is always more of a struggle. You see a lot of people getting very frustrated and miserable doing certain types of job, and you strike me as that kind of person.
Yeah, I'd towards the end of Game Station, I was quite restricted in terms of I had to be in an office in York at a certain time, and had to and I think the creativity was stifled, shall we say. I think that's how it felt, and I think exactly what you just said there. I couldn't see myself being an office person. I couldn't see myself sitting in an office with other people, working for somebody else, doing something that I wasn't really passionate about.
I think as a society, we mistakenly think that people like that are lazy, but it's actually no. Put people in the right environment, and then they're going to thrive. I think there's a bit too much of just try to ram square pegs into round holes.
Yeah,
and much the same as it was with school.
Yeah. I mean, that's an example I always use when I'm talking about my youngest child. If you're trying to put a round peg in a square hole, or a square peg in a round hole, you keep hitting it until it fits. All you're going to do is break the peg.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. So what did you end up doing then from your redundancy?
So I mean, I'd only been there 3 years, so I didn't have a lot of money. I managed to.
Was it quite scary?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, because I had a young family as well. So.
Oh right. So.
So this was 2004, and I'd got my daughter was 5, so it was quite.
Wow.
Yeah, it was. Luckily, my wife at the time had she was employed. She had a fairly decent job, so the mortgage was paid, but it was would have been a struggle. I couldn't have not had work. So, and my work ethic wouldn't have allowed me not to have work.
I think that's it.
So I had one client that I took with me who I'd used he was a training guy. He did management training, and so he said, "Well, I'll give you something each month to work with me and do some of my stuff."
So you got something to keep you going.
So that gave me the confidence to. It wasn't much. It was only about £100 a month or something, but it was something.
Yeah.
That enabled me to kind of go, well,
something to build on.
I'm going to give it a go.
Yeah.
So I learned how to do websites. So I built my own website, and then that was kind of how Media Arts started, really. And
Did you were you predominantly doing video work, or had you decided, right, I'm going to push the whole thing with the website side of
I
things?
thought to start with, websites was where it was going to be at, because it was one of those in that time.
Around about, yeah.
Everybody wanted websites, and
Yeah.
you know, you had to know HTML, and you had to, you know, it wasn't like today where, you know, I mean, you've just said about YouTube, being able to teach yourself anything on
Yeah.
YouTube. I mean, I would, not putting down web developers, but I would say anybody could use WordPress now
Yeah.
to build a website with no prior experience if they watched a few YouTube videos. It is,
Yeah.
you know, it's very user.
You've got so many builders as well now, haven't you, like website builders.
Yeah.
I mean, I use
Yeah.
a northeast company called Blocks, but they can
Yeah.
output WordPress templates.
Yeah.
They can do all sorts of things, and then obviously you've got your Wixes, you've got your just AI that are just basically build me this website.
Yeah.
This is what I'm doing next,
AI is
or something
bonkers,
like that.
yeah.
It's
Yeah. So I did think at that time, because everybody wanted a website and everybody, you know, but like I say, the easy tools were not there then. It
No.
was, you had to learn code. I did think that might be the way it would go, but it wasn't really.
no. It's, are you pleased that you did though?
Yeah, I'm pleased. Well, yeah, I'm pleased. It's a skill that I, you know, and when I'm doing website stuff now, and if I'm looking at something that's not working, I kind of can delve under the bonnet a bit and work out perhaps why.
I think that's a big difference, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
like, so when you've got that underlying knowledge of the mechanics and how it's put together, then you can solve the little problem that will inevitably come from one size fits all stuff being banged together.
Yeah, exactly.
So you've got the coding. You were doing a bit of
I did that. I was doing things like PowerPoint presentations for people. So there was an MD of a big supermarket chain who I did some PowerPoint slides that, you know, were, you know, had decent, nice graphics on and looked cool, you know, for his conference and things like that. But not a huge amount of videos where I still wanted to be. So
yeah,
I got one client who were an IT company, and they gave me a break with the video, so I did 4 or 5 things for them, which kind of really kick-started things on the video front. And then that just kind of led on to other stuff, really. I've always been fortunate that a lot of my stuff has been kind of word of mouth.
yeah,
So, you know, I'm a big believer in, I mean, I hate doing it, but I'm a big believer in networking and having networks. And over the years, I've built a decent network of people who thankfully have, you know, referred me when somebody in their network needs video. So, so that IT company led to what used to be Barrett's Shoes.
okay,
Stylo Barrett, who were based in Bradford, so they had that. They had Shoe Zone, they had Pavers, I think, number of big shoe retailers. So I got to do their induction videos, their training videos, and the woman.
Training videos has been quite a big thing for them by the sounds of it, isn't it? Like from your initial setup.
Well, I always think it's a bit of a selling point, really, that I understand how training works and how people learn and how.
Ironic, since you didn't
No,
enjoy
yeah,
school.
that's true. Yeah, very true.
In a way. But then again, I mean, I've worked with in training, and obviously as a teacher, and you know, the two. You would think you'd get people would manage to marry them up a little bit better, and you know, and incorporate one into the other and so forth. But
I can remember when The Office came out. I mean, going off tangent a little bit, but when The Office came out, we tried to buy it in when I was still at Game Station. We tried to buy it in as a training tool as to what not to do. You know, as you know, not to be like David Brent. You know, because there were so many David Brents. That's why it worked.
yeah,
There were
exactly.
so many David Brents out there.
It is fascinating because I'm a massive fan of The Office. I absolutely loved it. But then going into other industries, some people just didn't get it.
No.
And it's like, and I think you did have to work in an office in order to
Maybe,
kind of see that possibly. But no, I'm with you on that. It's a fantastic show.
So I think, you know, knowing a little bit about training, I think that's helped me when I've gone in and spoken to HR directors for work. That, you know, I think they have the confidence that I kind of understand it. I get it.
Yeah, and so basically, you're setting up on your own. We've overcome I suppose someone's thrown you a tidbit that has helped you overcome the inevitable anxiousness regarding going self-employed. And you've been doing what you know from your initial big break. At what point then did you, and to go back to what we'd said earlier on, you regard yourself very much as a story person. How did that come about? What gave you your first sort of opportunity to work as doing something more story-wise? That I suppose something you could get a lot more passionate about.
I mean, I think probably the biggest one probably, and it's still an unfinished project.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, sort of 15 years down the line. But I met a man called Michael Lavaglio, who he was in his 70s at that point, and he'd been convicted of a crime in the 60s, quite a well-known crime, and he'd always claimed that he hadn't done it. The crime was murder. It was about as serious as it gets. And he'd been convicted of the murder of Angus Sibbott in South Hetton.
Right.
Who was he was a fruit machine cash collector at the time, and he was found in the back of his car in South Hetton, which, for anybody who doesn't know, is a really small mining town. It's still quite small, but then it was a pit village, really, in the back of a massive Jaguar car.
Yeah.
And he'd been
something
shot.
like that for that size of place is going to be quite a massive thing, isn't it?
Yeah. And the police at the time obviously it was a very different time, but the police had managed to prove that the car that Michael and another man were driving had come into contact with the car that the man was found in.
Yeah.
And so they were convicted, these two men, and they both spent 12 years in prison for murder. Both of them saying that they didn't do it. And the whole story fascinated me because Get Carter is one of my favourite films, and that's kind of what it's loosely based on, is this particular real story. There's lots of similarities. The car's the same. The one of the houses that's used in Get Carter is actually linked to this murder. So it always fascinated me, but it really resonated with me. There was this old bloke who'd got really nothing to gain now.
Yeah.
He'd done his time. He'd got nothing. But he was so adamant, and there was obviously much more to this.
Yeah.
And I think that was the first thing that really got me, and I kind of decided I wanted to kind of find out more and learn a bit more about it. And it started with a book. It started with a book that's out of print that I read really cover to cover within a night, because it just highlighted all of the flaws in the police case, and really brought it home that the only thing that had convicted these two men were the two cars. That was the only evidence. There was no motive. There was no forensics. There was no there was no weapon. There were no witnesses. All of these things.
It's getting quite deep, because you're almost becoming like an investigative journalist.
Yeah.
Was this kind of like your first foray into this area, or? Yeah,
I'd always been interested in true crime.
Yeah.
Not as somebody who glamorized it, not as somebody who kind of like a crime groupie, which there's lots of now.
Yeah.
But more, it interested me what makes the man, what made that person do that thing. Why did the Krays do what they did? Why were they so good or bad, depending on your viewpoint?
Yeah, that's always fascinated me. It's like, how we've got this fetishization of people like that.
Yeah. Freddie Foreman's another one. Why did somebody like Freddie rise so high in that world?
Yeah.
Is it are they products of their own environment? Is it because they were war babies who, you know, were scratching around on building sites to try and get.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it? It's different, very different times.
Absolutely, yeah. So it's always fascinated me, and so true crime has always fascinated, but for that reason, really, not from a glamour point of view. And when I heard this Michael's story, I just felt like I wanted to do something. It just felt wrong. It felt, that sounds a really silly thing to say, but when you say it out loud, but it just made me feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
That something had happened that shouldn't have done. You know, Michael had spent this time in prison. It really were kind of the years when he might have had children. They'd gone. You know,
it's like someone's life, isn't it?
His dad had died while he was in prison. His mum had, you know, aged and got very ill. You know,
I think we forget as well the fact that while he's inside, they put the actual culprit as well. If we get it wrong,
absolutely,
that actual culprit of that crime has got away with it.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. So I thought, well, I'm going to make a documentary. I thought I'm going to make a documentary and show everybody how bad this thing that's happened is, and then I went down the rabbit hole, and so I've solved it. I know what happened. I know what happened. I've spoken to all sorts of people on camera, but it's one of those stories that I think is such a brilliant story, but the TV networks and the film companies kind of go, yeah, we like it, but what's new? What's new that's happened? And my argument is always, well, we know what really happened now, so that's new. But if you take that to one side, does something actually need to be new? You know, surely the story is this man spent this time in prison and he shouldn't have done. That's the story. It doesn't have to be new. But
were you doing all this off your own back? Yeah. So it was something that essentially self-funded.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. And Michael and I became really good friends, and he died during COVID, and so I did his eulogy at the funeral, and we were only allowed 12 people there, you know, and it would have been absolutely packed if, you know, because when he came out of prison, he went and did, he set up a charity for mentally ill young adults who to get them into work, and you know, they had so much success. So many won awards and all sorts of stuff. You know, he would have been packed, the church, but we were allowed 12 people. You know, so it was sad, but he kind of died before we were able to bring it to light.
Yeah,
I got him to court. I did get him back to the appeal court. I put the fresh evidence into the Criminal Cases Review Commission. And we went to the appeal court and took the Criminal Cases Review Commission to a judicial review at the Court of Appeal, which was an amazing experience. But unfortunately, everything was stacked against us, and we didn't win. But so that's a really long-winded way of answering your question about what stories really got me kind of into that side of thing. But that's it. Yeah. I'm still working on that. Every now and then somebody comes forward and says, "Oh, I'm really interested in this. Can we look at it?" And
so in that respect, then, is it so you are doing things kind of off your own back, then attempting to get them commissioned once you've got a final product?
Yeah, I mean, there's two ways. I mean, one is that, which you know, through necessity, that's what I've done with that particular project. There are others, which is the dream scenario, where you have an idea. You put that idea to somebody in authority, and they go, "Yeah, we like it. We'll commission it."
How did you get to that stage? Because that's what fascinates me. You're making training videos, and now you're in a position where you know you have these contacts where you can think, right, I've had an idea, I can take it to.
So it is all about contacts.
Yeah.
Like I said earlier, you know, I'm a big believer in networks, and through this project that I've just talked to you about. I'd been introduced to a sales agent called David Pounds, who was based in the South, but he specialised in factual stuff, and he had a production company that had, you know, contacts with TV and film, and I'd been working on an idea for a Jimi Hendrix documentary about how he died. For about 6 months, just literally on paper idea. and I happened to mention it to him in passing, and he went, "Oh, I'd love to do that." His eyes lit up, you could see. And so within about 6 weeks, he took that to Reels in America,
Yeah.
and they'd commissioned it. And so we were in a position then to make this Jimmy documentary, which then Sky Arts bought off the back of it.
Wow.
So it really was knowing David. David then went and was that kind of that link.
So the networking, as you mentioned earlier, has been really crucial. And that's something. But you've also said you're not keen on it. You don't like it.
Do you know? I hate being in a room with, and we're lucky. We've got quite a lot of good networking groups in our area here.
Yeah.
You know, and I've been a member of most of them. But I really fundamentally dislike standing in a room with a stranger and feeling like I have to try and sell them something, or being sold at by somebody who has no interest in me or my needs. They just want
it's that's my little pet peeve. It's like sort of when you get businesses that just send a salesperson.
Yeah.
I want you to go to. There's loads of hot leads there for you to go, and then it's like that's not the way these things are supposed to work. If someone's a salesperson, then let them be. I've been a salesperson myself before. Pound the doors, pound the phones, whatever you need to do. But if you're in a networking position, I think it puts a company in a bad light if you're cynically sending a salesperson along when you should be going yourself. I just think that's wrong. Little pet peeve there. I've got that off my chest.
Pleased to be of assistance.
That's
there.
it. Thank you.
It's all right.
So you're not keen on networking, but you have amassed, I suppose, quite an enviable number of contacts and good quality contacts as well.
Yeah.
And so in terms of what you do, what's keeping you busy now?
I had a run of feature film stuff, so up until the turn of this year, I did another documentary about the Krays and the Mafia, which I presented, as well as wrote and did all the work for. We did 2 dramas that were, one with Rula Lenska, that we filmed in the pub over the road amongst many of other places. And A New Breed of Criminal, which was about a local crime family.
Right.
So that kept me busy until the beginning of this year, and then the feature film work has kind of dropped off a little bit at the moment. And so there's a lot of corporate stuff going on at the moment. I'm doing a lot of podcast stuff with Anna Brand, who I know you met when we went to do
network meetings.
Exactly, which was a nice one. I enjoyed that one, actually. Yes. I'm going to go back to that.
Yeah, definitely.
There were some nice people there. So I'm doing Anna's podcast, which I'm doing all the kind of the tech stuff for.
Yeah.
Filming and editing and all the stuff you're doing.
For myself.
Yeah. So I'm doing that. I'm working for a client at the moment who's doing she's a doctor in ADHD and autism and all this kind of stuff. She trains it, and it's this one's quite a medical video that we're chunking down into like a course so she can sell it on a website. So I'm doing that. I've got stuff for car dealership and Northumbria Uni. We've just done something for. So I'm fairly busy with corporate stuff, but I'm still trying to get irons in the fire for more feature film stuff.
Well, Neil, that sounds absolutely fantastic. I'm sure things are going to continue to go from strength to strength for you. Thank you very much for appearing on the podcast.
Absolutely.
And I wish you all the best.
Thank you.